so we need to figure out the equation. So some of the work that you can show me is, hey, I'm doing L1 and L2. And to figure out the equation, it's stat, calc, quad reg. Okay. I already went and entered these values into L1 and L2. I already ran this before, the quadratic regression, so I'm not going to go ahead and do the whole thing again. That is the equation you're supposed to get. So I would expect you to have, this would be negative 0.20, right, if it rounds, minus 4.74x minus 10.17. Okay, so that's the equation that I would expect you to have there. If you made a rounding error, just take put an R next to it for rounding. Right, you want to run from these ones, rounding, units, notation, and now you can add K for keystrokes. So make sure you take away there. Vertex, coordinates of the vertex. Well, first of all, zoom 9 just gets you close to it, to the points. It's not a perfect window, okay? I would argue it's not a perfect window, but I think in this particular case it does a pretty good job because the points are scattered throughout, so it does a pretty good job. To get the vertex, it's just second trace max. I should have done one where you had to do the min, but hey, it is what it is because the other one is already max. So that's your vertex right there. I will show you the just the answer here. That'd be negative 11.86, 1793, and you go second trace max for that. So a mark for that. The equation of the min or max, which one applies? The min doesn't apply. The max, the equation of the max is just that, the y value of the vertex. State one of the x-intercepts, right? We let y2 equal to 0, and then we go second trace 5, and one of them is negative 2.390. The other one is negative 21.340. You don't have to do keystrokes again on that one. State the y-intercept is just straight from the equation. So that's negative 10.17. So you don't need keystrokes there technically. State the axis of symmetry. That's the equation of the axis of symmetry. That is going to be the x value of the vertex. The domain, it's all real numbers, right? Or you go negative infinity to positive infinity. 1 mark for that. The range, it's pointing down, correct? So it's going to be y is less than or equal to 17.93. Okay. Or 17.93, I got to be careful here. Negative infinity. Right? Negative infinity to 17.93. Calculate y if x is equal to negative 3. So there you just go second, trace, value, x is equal to negative 3. And when you plug that in, you may have to change your window parameters, but in this case, it works out to be 2.24. 1 mark for that. If y is equal to 6, calculate the x value. So if you have the y value, put it into y2, second trace, intersection, okay, y2 is equal to 6. Make sure you expand your window. If you can't see both legs, you need to make sure you see both crossings. It happens twice, okay? So one of them is, if you just put the coordinates down, that's fine with me. One of them is negative 19.596. And the other one is negative 4.136, okay? So you're fine there. We will make that worth 2 marks for 12. And then 13 switches gear. That's a different question, right? Altogether. So here's where I'm going to make a note of this. And some of you had that issue. You want to turn plot 1 off. When you're entering your own equation, turn it off. It may not affect you. So you might get away with it, but at some point you are going to come into a problem with that. I can almost guarantee you that. I'm going to hit graph. I don't see anything. I'm going to try a zoom 6. Much better. I'm going to chase the curve up here. Y max, let's go 30. That does a pretty good job. I'm happy with that. What's the maximum height that's found at the vertex? So that's second trace max. Keystrokes are a must. So you get the vertex. Okay, so max height is 26.99 units. Okay, if we don't know what the units are in. So if you didn't put units down, you're fine today. 14, how long was the projectile in the air? Okay, so we're asking for, right, we're wondering about that x-intercept. And so the x-intercept is 4.690, so it would be 4.69 units. Okay, seconds, hours, we don't know. Was it one of those intercontinental missiles, right? That would take longer. But that is it. So 1 mark for everything except for 12. So this is worth 15. Okay, this is worth 15 because 12 is worth 2. Because there were the 2 x values you had to figure out. So you can put it at the bottom, why not? All right, out of 15. Name and last name at the top.